Hi guys, welcome back, or most likely welcome to my channel, because my channel is so fresh and so new that there are probably a lot of new faces here. Hello to everyone who has done therapy or is thinking about doing therapy, because today we're going to talk about my experience of 5 years of therapy. So I originally started therapy back in like 2018-19, and I started it because I really was not very happy with my life. I was having a lot of problems with my husband. We were having a lot of problems. I hated my job that I thought I loved. My brain is telling me that I love it, but my heart is like, no, we hate this place. Probably most importantly, I was extremely resentful towards my parents, both of my parents really. And I also think that at the time that I started therapy, it was kind of the popular thing to do. At least in my friend group, a lot of my friends were starting therapy, and one friend in particular said that she started working with this therapist who was changing lives. She was like, hey, if you want to try him out, I'll give you his number because I'm using this therapist and he's pretty good. So I thought, why the hell not? Because I honestly, everything I was going through in my life up until that point was really leading me to make that decision. I've been with a total of 3 therapists, and I can't tell you that one was better than the other. I feel like they all contributed greatly to my personal development, and they all helped me with different issues. Like my first therapist, we really focused on my dad a lot. My second therapist, we focused on my mom. My last therapist right now, we're just focusing on my emotions, on my self-awareness. I can't really pick one and tell you that one is better than the other. I'd say just try different therapists and see how it feels. So the first lesson that I want to talk about today is you don't need other people to meet your inner child's needs, especially probably parents, but also spouses. Like, you don't need a person outside of you to meet your needs. You can do it for yourself. So I'd like to start making this point by saying that my resentment towards my parents was definitely justified. It's not just me and I think everyone's resentment towards their parents is justified, because if you feel this way, then you've been made to feel this way. However, I continued to hold my parents accountable for my emotions, for my life results and life outcomes, even as an adult. My very first therapist did this technique with me. I think you could call it a technique, where you just close your eyes, you go deep into your childhood, and you try to remember the earliest point of your childhood. And especially times that you were most vulnerable, probably needed support and love from your parents but didn't get it. And what he did was he told me, the adult Naz, to go sit with the child Naz and comfort her and give her whatever it is that she needs in that moment. It could be words of encouragement, it could be words of support, it could be a physical touch, a hug, a kiss, it could be telling her it's gonna be okay, don't be scared, I'm here, I got you. Whatever it is that your inner child needs. And he actually specifically asked me, what does the child Naz need to hear in this moment? I remember him asking me that, and that's where the floodgates opened. That's where I just started crying hysterically, because I really needed to be told some basic things, some basic words of love and support, and I didn't hear that when I was little, so that was extremely helpful. This practice taught me what being gentle with yourself really means, what self-love and self-care actually means. And it really gave me a sense of safety and security that I lacked as a little kid. This practice really changed my attitude towards both of my parents, but also it changed the expectations that I had of my husband. Because naturally, I think this happens very organically, that whatever you don't get in your childhood, you start looking for people in your adult life who could replace your parents and could give you the things that you didn't get from your parents. I personally entered this relationship with very high expectations of, you need to love me, you need to care for me, provide safety, provide security, be my friend, be this, be that for me. And it's always been a problem between my husband and I. And so when I understood that I could really be there for my own self, it took a lot of pressure and burden off of his shoulders. And he even said, I asked him in preparation for this video for his feedback, and he even said that it made me more attractive to him. Like, he loves that I'm doing therapy and taking care of myself and prioritizing myself, because it makes him really truly admire me, and it makes him want to be around me. Although that was not really my goal, I think it's an excellent consequence. Okay, point number 2 that I want to make is that in order to really, truly forgive somebody, you have to accept them for who they are. This is my personal lesson, and this is a very important piece of the puzzle in my life. And here I really want to talk about my dad, because I have had bitterness towards my dad all my life, really, as long as I remember myself. And let me tell you something. My dad has many, many flaws. He is far from a perfect human, but he's even farther from a perfect dad. He's really not a bad guy. He doesn't have a bad, evil heart. He's just a terrible dad. So anyways, as life went on, my feelings about him kept getting heavier and heavier for me to carry. They were bleeding into my personal life, my relationship with my husband, my life at work. It was really affecting me in a negative way. And fundamentally, I always wanted to change him. I always wished he was different. I always wanted to correct him and criticize his behaviors. And my anger, the anger that I felt, was really stemming from him not responding to me wanting him to change. Like, he wasn't changing. Year after year, he was just the same bad dad. I kept getting angrier and angrier and angrier. I was stuck in this place of being forever the child, forever the victim. So eventually I did realize that my hate towards him, I think it's the perfect word to describe how I felt about him. My hate towards him really was ruining my life. That's actually why I started working with my first therapist in the first place, because I realized that there was a lot of work to be done in this area. He really helped me understand this idea of healthy boundaries and the idea of control in psychology. I recognized that I wanted to control my dad. I wanted him to be exactly the person that I wanted him to be, with no regard to his emotions, his feelings, and his journey in his life. Pretty much, I didn't know my boundaries with him. I think as children, we have very high expectations of our parents. I personally used to see my parents, both of them really, as gods. They were the most important people in my life. They were the most important thing in my life. I looked up to them, and I had this idea of, my parents are flawless. My parents are the epitome of perfection. And so it's very hard for us to lower these expectations and to accept the fact that they're just human. They are as flawed and as imperfect as all of us. And so yes, his actions affected my childhood, but we are not in my childhood right now. We are here. We are right now. I am 31 years old. And now in this moment, I am safe. I'm loved. I am cared for. I've grown up. Even if something happened or something was wrong, I was capable of caring for myself and meeting my own emotional needs. I didn't really need him for that anymore. So all of that work and all of those realizations, they put me on a journey of forgiveness. But in order to do that, I did have to accept him fully for who he is. As flawed as he is, as bad as he is, I had to fully accept my father. What helped me do that is understand that he's actually not a part of me. And yes, his actions affected me when I was little, but they don't anymore, and they don't have to anymore. He is a separate human with his own life story, with his own trauma, with his own journey, and he has his own demons that he's fighting. And I think I should add here that my dad actually never abused me or anything like that. He never did anything crazy, But you know, as a little girl, there are these expectations that you have of your dad. So it sounds very dramatic. Maybe it's not that dramatic now that I look at it. As a little girl, I perceived it to be the end of the world. And I think I should add here also that my dad still does things that upset me, but I've learned not to project my feelings onto him. I've learned to regulate my feelings before I have a conversation with him. So that's very helpful. And yeah, I think forgiving him, accepting him for who he is, really freed me in a way. Speaking of regulating your emotions, that actually leads me to my next point, which is there is no such thing as bad feelings. In the past, I used to be very explosive, very emotional. I used to try to fix myself by using force. I used to just tell myself, stop doing this, stop acting this way, stop yelling at people, stop snapping at people. I didn't like my anger, I didn't like my resentment, and I thought the answer was to just stop feeling these emotions. And of course, as everything else in my life and in your life, it started in my childhood where my mom used to tell me to stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. She used to reject me when I would start to get emotional. She hated when my sister and I argued or had fights. And so I guess I was really primed to believe that negative emotions are bad emotions. Then I grew up in this era of toxic self-improvement. And I say toxic because I grew up in the times where they used to say, don't feel any negative feelings, because if you feel negative feelings and say negative things, you're attracting more negativity into your life. And you have to be always positive, always optimistic, always hopeful, always excited. Yeah, that really confirmed to me that I should get rid of all my bad feelings. And so my current therapist, she's my third therapist, she has helped me rephrase the question from how do I get rid of my feelings to why am I feeling angry and what is this feeling trying to tell me about myself? Because feelings, as she explained to me, are good. All of them are good because they're all trying to tell you something. They're all trying to teach you something if you just learn to listen. You know, we're all human, and as long as we're alive, we are going to feel different emotions, a different range from positive to so-called negative emotions. Really is childish and naive to think that you can control yourself that much, that you can just stop certain feelings. There is no way. So it's not about not feeling certain emotions. It's more about what do I do once I realize that I'm angry or upset. In case of my dad, I didn't just magically forgive him and start, not getting upset with him or not getting angry with him. That's not at all what happened. I still have those emotions about him, but what I've learned to do is recognize them, actually call them what they are. Whenever I get upset, I say, okay, I'm upset with my dad. I'm feeling very angry at the moment. So I give my emotion a name. And then I get super curious about them. Like, where are they rooting from and what are they trying to teach me? What are they trying to tell me? And so instead of having a conversation with him in the moment of anger, I take my time to bring myself to balance by neutralizing the negative emotion or stabilizing myself. What helps me the most is actually kind of silly, but I talk to myself out loud because I'm a person who processes things verbally, so I need to say things out loud to process everything, to make a decision, to come to a full understanding of what's going on. Some people journal and that really helps them. I've heard, really great stories about journaling. For me, my version of journaling is just sitting down with myself and talking to myself out loud. Once I have that conversation with myself, I'll do something to balance out my emotions. Like I'll listen to my favorite song, I'll go for a drive, or I'll go to a park and have a walk, whatever it is that I feel like I need in that moment, I go and do. And that brings me to a more of a balanced emotional state. So I would say these are the three main things that I learned in therapy. And like I said, I've been in therapy for 5 years, so it took me a while. I'm not telling you that just by watching this video or just by watching a couple things on YouTube, you're just suddenly gonna change, but just having an awareness about these things could also be 50% of the work. A lot of the times we stay in those patterns because we don't understand what's going on. We don't understand ourselves at all. At least that was the case with me. I am definitely not a licensed therapist or anything like that. I'm so far from that actually. However, I do feel that therapy is extremely important, extremely beneficial. It's changed my life, it's changed me, my relationships with other people. I'm gonna continue doing that because it actually helps me understand myself better, and that's the most exciting part of it. Like, I am a whole universe. There is so much happening in here that I want to learn about. I want to know myself better. So I really hope you consider doing therapy, especially if you feel like this is something that could help you in your life. What it did for me was, like I said earlier, helped me improve my relationships with my parents, helped me with forgiving both of my parents. It improved my relationship with my husband so much. And most importantly, it improved my relationship with myself. Don't beat myself up anymore. I try to be more gentle with myself. I feel like I love myself, truly, genuinely love myself like never before, and I hope you guys give it a try. I love you guys, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.